Hi everybody, I'm Mallory and I'm a yoga teacher, and in this video I'm going to be giving a tutorial about how to really nail a vinyasa. When you go to vinyasa flow classes, a lot of times you might see people doing it or have a teacher say take a vinyasa and not really be exactly sure what that means and just sort of kind of copy what you see, which sometimes looks like this kind of swooping like motion, and then time after time doing that, if you're misaligned, it might wear and tear on your joints, on your back, on your shoulders. So it's really important to really know the postures that make up the vinyasa and how to break them down so that when you piece them together, you do it in a mindful, careful way, in a safe way, of course. So in this video, I'm going to go through the common misalignments and the things that people do incorrectly, and then correct them so that you'll know how to, when going forward and going to a yoga class or practicing at home, you'll really know what you're doing. So let's get right to it. So when you're starting a vinyasa, you'll start in downward facing dog. A common misalignment in downward facing dog is to have your feet a little too close, or to have your feet a little too far away so that you're just kind of holding yourself up by your shoulders and straining really hard. So you want to gauge where to place your hands and your feet by taking a plank, and once your elbows are stacked over your wrists and you could swiftly move into a V shape, that's when you know where your hands and feet should be. So once you have your hands and feet in the correct position, if you find that you're still really leaning forward because it's really a lot on your hamstrings, bend your knees and then send your belly towards your thighs, and you'll feel like you have more flexibility to work with through the back and really release through the low back as well. And then over time you can start to lower the heels and continue to send the belly towards the thigh. Right? So just sort of relaxing into the pose as much as you can. You're sending your thighs in and up towards one another, tailbone back, and the head in between the shoulders, relaxing the head and neck, pressing the thumb and forefinger into the mat so the palms are flat on the mat. You're not putting your fists or anything down onto the mat, and just taking nice long breaths. From here, you're going to come onto your tiptoes and roll right into plank. And like I said, you should be able to swiftly move from downward facing dog into plank like a well-oiled machine. So you should not have a situation where you're crawling around, right? You should be able to do this a bunch of times like it was no big thing. So once you're in plank, a common misalignment in plank, or several, we'll start with this one. Obviously, my hips are way too low. This is a recipe for disaster. I'm going to hurt my low back eventually. Another poor idea for plank is to have your hips a little bit too high. This isn't quite downward facing dog, right? This is downward facing dog. This is a way to easily ruin your shoulders. So in plank, you want to keep the tailbone slightly tucked, elbows over your wrists, and shoulders over your elbows. I'm going to drop my knees for a second because I'm getting tired. So coming right back into it, coming into plank, I'm sending my heels back. So I'll show you what this looks like. I'm not too far forward on my toes, sending my heels back. Then, from here to take a mini push-up, so this is a modification of chaturanga. I'm going to come into it on my knees. So again, it would look something like this if you're flowing. Downward facing dog, plank, drop your knees. I'm going to send my body forward, so I'll do that one more time. Right, I'm in this tabletop position, moving forward. I'm going to bend my elbows. Misalignment in this pose looks like this, where the elbows are out, really strains the shoulder girdle there. I want to keep my elbows glued to my ribs. So they're bending like this, right? Not like this. Looks like this. So from the side view, right, my elbows are still stacked over my wrists, shoulders over my elbows. Tilt the body, come onto my chin, my hips stay high. Then from here I'm going to roll onto my belly. Tops of my feet are down. My hands are under my shoulders, so if you're a woman, I like to use the bra line as a reference. And I'm going to lean up for baby cobra. Exhale, come back down. From here, I'm going to tuck my toes under, press into my hands, flat back, and send my hips back and up for downward facing dog. Relax. Now, if that vinyasa where you're doing knees, chest, chin for a while, let's say you're working on it for weeks, months, maybe even years, and then you eventually feel like you're strong enough to do the next pose, which is chaturanga, it would look something like this. I'll do the misalignment in chaturanga first because sometimes people get this misaligned as well. Not sometimes, oftentimes. I see it a lot in yoga class. So, misalignment in chaturanga. Well, first, coming to chaturanga, you come into it from plank. So it would look like this. Downward facing dog. Inhale, roll forward to plank. Misalignment in chaturanga, same one as that modified, is that you would send your elbows out. It makes it so much more difficult. Here, you want to come forward onto the toes. So it's just a tilt with the heels, right? In plank, we send our heels back. Inhale, come onto your toes. Exhale, elbows at your ribs. Stop at 90. Roll onto your toes. Upward facing dog. Notice how in upward facing dog, my elbows are slightly bent, and the only body parts that are touching are the tops of my feet and my hands. From here, I'm going to come all the way back. Downward facing dog. Going to take another rest, because I'm just one human being, so I have to take a breather. So, talking about upward facing dog. Same thing with baby cobra, is that you don't want your shoulders in your ears while you're doing it. And a lot of times people do that because they don't have the flexibility or the body awareness yet for sending their chest forward and opening up into the back bend rather than freezing through the shoulders. So in upward facing dog, there should always be a slight bend in your elbows as well. I believe I mentioned. So you never want to look in upward facing dog, again, tops of the feet and the hands, you never want to look like this, right? Notice the difference of this and this. Shoulders are relaxed, slight bend in my elbows. I feel like I'm pulling my belly button forward and making space in the whole spine, right? Sending the head back a bit and breathing. Then you can do 1 foot at a time if you want, just tucking one toe and then the other, and sending the hips back. Or you can come onto both if you feel like you have the strength and stability. Just roll. So I'll do that. I'm not using a yoga mat, so it doesn't go as swiftly. But rolling both at the same time. And then dropping down onto your knees. And then take a child's pose. Relax. So, you can do this. You can do this around 10 times sometimes in a yoga class. Just vinyasa, vinyasa, vinyasa. Sometimes, if you're getting tired, you might skip one, or you might modify by doing knees, chest, chin, and that's fine. But what I really encourage people to do is do it in a mindful way, a way that's honest for your body. So don't jump right into chaturanga if it's your first time practicing. And also, if you've only been practicing knees, chest, chin, and it's still pretty challenging for you, then don't just rush yourself into chaturanga. Be where you are. So, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And if you have any comments or questions, definitely let me know. Namaste.